No. I will not live in terror anymore.
12 seconds later.
Okay. Who had the power to magically teleport me outside and in the air to land really hard onto the ground? Who is it? Come on, show yourself. I know you. Oh, okay, we're doing this now.
During the early 2000s, Disney made two films that pretty much got mixed reviews, to say the least. These were Atlantis: The Lost Empire and Treasure Planet. Now, both films may have not done well at the box office, but nowadays they've gained a massive cult following with the hopes of the characters coming back in some way. Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to be anytime soon, as I, like a lot of other people who feel this way, feel that they'd be perfect to come back in the Kingdom Hearts series. But that's also a story of discussion for another time. Today we'll be taking a look at the Treasure Planet video game adaptations for both PS1 and PS2. So that means that the Atlantis fans will be disappointed as they have to wait a little longer for me to cover those games. I'm sorry. Now, I'm not going to go into the story, as if you've read or watched Treasure Island, from which the movie is based off, then you pretty much know what it's all about. The only difference is instead of travelling the seas, you'll be travelling the stars with a steampunk vibe. Now, about the games, from what I've heard online, they are pretty much the same game with missions, collectibles, but of course there are some key differences here and there.
It's really weird because as a fan of the movie, I've never played this version of the game or even its PS2 counterpart. Well, that is until now, obviously, and hopefully they'll be fun and enjoyable.
Now, before I begin the actual review part, I wanted to do a small comparison between both games' opening menus. Normally I don't usually talk about the menu for a game, but I've got to say that the PS2 version knocks this one right out of the park, while the PS1 version is... oh, it's a bit barren, isn't it? But Silver using his eye is kind of cool. As for the games themselves, I've got to say that they're nearly identical with only a few exceptions. Right, the tutorial first for the first game. Right, during the tutorial...
exciting treasure chests.
Now, as I...
Now, Jim.
Whisper.
Ah, this door...
It's going to be one of those, isn't it?
Look.
Okay. Before I go on, I need to make one thing perfectly clear. Both games are not terrible, just flawed. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the meat of things, and first up, I'll be primarily talking about the PS1 version first, and right off the bat, I'm already annoyed by it. I mean, I understand that tutorials were common in games like this, but does the game really need to feel the need to cut the music completely when a character is talking? I mean, I never really understood that about other PS1 games too, like Spyro 2 for a comparison. Whenever you're talking to someone in the game, the music just stops. And it's the same here, but at the tutorial part, and it just becomes annoying. One thing about this game, I will say, it was a little bit difficult to get used to the platforming. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't feel comfortable with it. Kind of reminds me of the platform jumping in the original Crash Bandicoot, where nearly every jump feels like you ain't going to make it. Also, please don't try to switch from the analog to the D-pad, because that just makes platforming worse. Now, I could go on about the platforming, and believe me, I could, but I feel the need to move on to something else I found a little disappointing, and that's the level design. While I ain't gonna go too hard on it, as it is a PS1 game and you can tell that a good amount of effort was put into it, it sadly doesn't quite capture the world that Jimbo lives in. You know, the more I play this game, the more I think about how much of a Spyro clone this is. No, really, instead of a fire breath, you get a laser, instead of wings, you get a glider, you even have the lock-on fireball attack from
Spyro 2
in here. Oh, and this.
Real subtle there, guys.
As we continue on, you begin to notice how boring the beginning part of the level is. I mean, sure, there are collectibles, but there's loads of health items around too, but you have no reason to use them because there's nobody here! Now, I know I'm ranting about a tutorial level and I shouldn't really care, but for a game that likes to give you advice every time you sneeze, I thought there'd be at least some enemies around to practice on, but nope! Just an empty, boring, deserted level. The rest of the game is pretty much the same, as while they do finally add enemies to fight, they sadly don't offer much of a challenge. I mean, the boss fights can be, but not by much, and since there's only two, Yeah, I think I'm nearly done here. The only other thing to mention is the vehicle levels, and oh boy, these controls are terrible. Now, while they do offer a variety of different vehicles to use, but unfortunately because the aforementioned controls, it ain't fun. You've got to be pixel perfect to make these jumps when it shouldn't really be that difficult. Now, I don't want to end this part of the video on a sour note. Some of the collectibles do contain artworks and clips from the movie, and to be honest, that's pretty cool for the time. However, that's not the case anymore, as the movie has been out for years now. Also, there's no real point to 100% complete it, as you pretty much get nothing for it. I could go on more about this game, but honestly, I just don't enjoy this version at all. Sad really, as from all accounts from close friends who played this version of the game speak of it fondly. I'm just sorry I don't share the enthusiasm for this version of the game. Right, that'll do for this version, that's...
Nope. Wait just a second there, buddy.
Can I help you?
Well, I'm here to do one of those guest appearance things you do on your channel.
What?
Yeah, you know, like when B-Mask corrected you, or when Tomato Ghost made an appearance. Then there was that time you got your ass kicked by Mandalore Gaming, that one was funny. Steve of War taking over a bit and doing, quite frankly, a far better job than you. Then there was that interrogation, if you want to call it that, of Mistress Dove. And I also think, well, Petronius made an appearance
Okay. Yes, all that did happen. So, I guess... Fine. You know what? Fine. What is your complaint about?
Complaint? What complaint? I don't have a complaint.
Well, that tends to be the main reason people keep appearing on my show. So, have I made a mistake about Treasure Planet in some ways? If there's something about the games I've made a mistake about?
I don't know anything about Treasure Planet. I'm just here for the free cameo. Subscribe to Sinister Pixel.
Get out of here before I kick your ass.
You can't kick my ass. I don't have an ass.
Let's move on from that, shall we?
The PS2 version might be by far the better version of this game if I'm being honest, and it's not hard to see why, as there's a lot more going on in this version compared to the PS1. While there are still a few problems here and there in this version, it just feels more smoother to play. Before I go on, I want people to take a very good look at the gameplay I'm showing you and tell me, doesn't it kind of look familiar? If not, then this background music will certainly give you a small hint.
Wow, both games like to copy and paste.
Seriously, the controls, the way you move, jump, attack, hell, even when you activate these things, it feels like I just got a power cell from Jak and Daxter. Note for note. Jesus Christ. Thank God they didn't try to replicate the rolling jump move, or else I'd really be annoyed. The only thing that's a little different from Jak and Daxter is that, like that game, Jim has Morph with him, but unlike Daxter, Morph is actually pretty useful. He can turn into a hammer when you're doing a jump attack. He can also turn into a cybernetic arms, glider, jetpack, running boots that make Jim run faster, but also allows him to run over lava, and disembody arms to pull switches. Wait, what? Now, like what the previous game had, this game also has vehicle levels with the solar board. While this game's version of it does feel nicer to play, controlling it, however, is another story. They ain't terrible, but while they did add variety to these missions, and the first couple of levels suit the controls very well to give you a nice balance between speed and control, later levels, however, can just sod off. Seriously, they really screwed up these levels that playing them became such a chore. Corners being hard to take, level structure is a mess, and death is pretty much the easiest thing to do. I won't go on too long about this, but all I'll say to you is when you get to the meteor belt level, just prepare for pain. Like its lesser half, there are 2 boss battles in this game, but this time only one is interesting. Particularly, the one with Scroop is really good. While sadly the one with Silver gets frustrating rather quickly, and I personally think it lasts way too long. Despite all that, I found myself enjoying this version compared to its PS1 version. Now, I know I was a little harsh on the port of the game, but it was clear that only one development team tried their hardest to make a movie licensed game, even if both games pretty much copy and paste from other classic games in order to do it. But I digress though.
So, which one do you think I'm going to recommend you guys to play? That's right, joke's on you, it's Battle of Procyon for the PC!
Yep, without a doubt, this little strategy game beats out both PlayStation games. Now, I'll be honest and upfront here, I don't normally play these sort of games, as I always find strategy games to be kind of dull. Nothing wrong with the games themselves, just not really my cup of tea. Now, after I've explained that, I bet you're wondering, why did I decide to give this game a shot? Well, not only because the title of this video is about Treasure Planet video games, but also because, believe it or not, I did give this game a try on one of those old demo discs you'd used to get from McDonald's of all places. Yep, it was one of those sort of experiences, but what you got in that said demo was so much more than I or my little sister expected, because we used to play this demo game for hours. Sadly, due to us using it so much and us being kids, we ended up damaging it in the end, and to the point where we had to throw it away, and afterwards we moved on and forgot all about it. Many years went by, and while doing research for the games for this video, I found this game on Steam for £7.19, and I just had to give it a try again, only to find that my taste since then has drastically changed, and I couldn't play it for more than a few minutes. What doesn't help its case more is after those said few minutes, I for some unknown reason couldn't play the game anymore. Not sure if this is a common problem the game has, but it's something to keep in mind if you want to replay this yourselves. As for the story of the game, I kind of remember it being a sequel for the movie, but don't quote me on it. Because of that, I don't feel comfortable giving this game a proper review because of my lack of enthusiasm for the genre and it crashing at odd times. I can't say more than that. But I can more or less recommend people to give it a try for themselves and maybe put it on your radar for the future. Because by all accounts, I still remember having a blast with this game when I was younger and enjoying it alongside my little sister too. Plus, with it being this cheap of a price, I think it'll be well worth it. If it works, of course.
Oh, finally. I did my first video of the year! I can finally relax. Is a sentence I really want to use one day. Who is it? Well, this is ominous. Okay, something usually happens right about now. Guess I can actually have a restful day today then. Awesome! I like this one!
Yeah, I know you liked to put in the extra bits last time I cameoed on your channel, so I just want all your viewers to know that when I said I don't have an ass, I fucking meant it. I only go down to the waist, and the rest of me does not exist. That is a little bit of behind the scenes for you there. Everyone subscribe to Whalley. He's a good egg. And follow him on Twitch as well. Or I will destroy you all.